You're listening to probably the best fitness and nutrition podcast, where we give you the most important fitness and nutrition advice you will ever need to know. Probably. Make sure to like us on Facebook and Instagram for fitness at Roof Fitness and for nutrition at Stacked Coaching. While you're there, give us a 5-star review, rate, review, and subscribe, and share it with your friends. Hey everyone, welcome to probably the best fitness and nutrition podcast. I am Bradley, the mayor of Roof Fitness and Stacked Coaching Nutrition. And I have with us Maysa Hannawi with In the Box PT. She is also an active life coach in addition to being a physical therapist and my coach.
That's the top title, right?
The top title, coach of Bradley Schneller. I like it. So I wanted to have Maysa on today to kind of talk not only about our journey, but how she arrived to where she is now, and her views on fitness and what it should be for the general public. Is that cool? I didn't even prep you on that. Are you all right with that?
Perfect. Yeah.
All right,
Maysa. Topics.
Maysa, so can you give me a little bit background information on you, how you started in CrossFit, and then what kind of drove you to become a physical therapist?
So I grew up overseas in Dubai my whole life. When I moved to the States for college, I didn't know what football was. This is kind of how it all started. So I went to my freshman year, went to football games and thought it was a very confusing, weird thing. And then one of my friends was a student trainer and she was like, you should come work for the football team. So I started working for the football team, obviously fell in love with football, and there got to see a lot of physical therapy and injuries, and started shadowing the football physical therapist. And I was like, this is kind of cool. I was doing human biology, didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. So that's kind of where I found physical therapy, and I got to see a lot of the performance side of it.
You were a South Carolina Gamecock, right?
No, I was actually North Carolina.
North Carolina, damn.
Yeah.
NC State, got you.
Yeah, and then I came to Charleston for PT school. But
that's right.
While I was in PT school, played competitive ultimate frisbee, which is not that funny as
I told you I'm like the 3-time defending ultimate frisbee champion, right? At LSU.
I love it. Yeah, I know. So you don't think it's lame, but a lot of people do. And during that, tore up my ACL, MCL, meniscus. Had been a runner my whole life, played sports. So coming off of that, didn't really know what to do with myself. Had never really been in a gym. One of my good friends was a CrossFitter, and she's like, you should try CrossFit. I was like, this is so stupid. You guys are exercising for time. I really thought it was so dumb. I went and watched a competition, and I was like, what are they doing? This is dumb. And then I tried it eventually after lots of being coerced, and I was like, wow, chugged the Kool-Aid. This is so fun. Did CrossFit all throughout physical therapy school in Charleston. Coached a little bit, kind of fell in love with the results I was seeing in the gym over the results I was seeing in clinics with people. I was like, you can do so much more for someone through the gym and fitness than you can in a typical clinic. So straight out of PT school, paired up with a cash-based clinic in Charleston and started In the Box PT. So I traveled to different CrossFit gyms and set up shop on their table and treated straight out of their gym. With COVID, that's switched around a little bit. I do a lot more online. I started becoming a coach with Active Life a little bit before COVID. I've transitioned a lot of my in-person clients to online. I still see some in-person in gyms, but I still do CrossFit out of my garage gym now.
I watch all your videos.
have a programming coach myself. So yeah, that's the story.
That's awesome. How has your views on fitness changed from when you were assisting at NC State to now?
Oh, so drastically. I remember I used to go to Fitness Connection, I think it was called, and do the glute kickback machine. And it's just an unfathomable thing that I went to the gym without a plan. And I would just pick some machines and do some sets and didn't lift weights and didn't know anything. Even now, when I look back at my first year or two in CrossFit videos. I'm like wearing every sleeve known to man, every lifter. Now I'm like so anti all of these things.
I feel like that is a change of the times though, because I did that too. And I don't know if that's something you do when you first get into CrossFit where you buy all the gear and wear all the gear, but now it's like, I don't even wear like Reeboks. I wear these Nike Metcon X Freeze that most people don't wear. And I literally pride myself on not putting on a belt, wrist wraps. I didn't wear grips for Murph.
Grips,
I know you do, but you rip like a boss. So no knee sleeves, nothing. But I feel like a lot less people are doing that.
Yeah, I think we've evolved a little bit as far as the physical therapy rehab world to know that those don't do what they claim to do. If you are a competitor and you're trying to feel good and have that extra edge, then by all means, like throw on some knee sleeves if it's going to make your knees feel better in the moment. But at the end of the day, like that's just a crutch. Like your body's super adaptable and resilient, and there's no point in training with something if you could just train your body to do that.
I love it. You know what most people who've been in CrossFit for 10 years do with their knee sleeves?
Use them for rope climbs.
Boom. Yep.
That's the only time I wear them, on my shins, so I don't burn my shins.
Yeah. I use them for rope climbs. So now that you've been like super experienced in the physical therapy world, do you look back on your time like assisting with the football team at NC State and we're kind of like, what the heck were you guys doing?
A little. I don't think I knew enough to know enough, if that makes sense. Like I think I don't think I knew what was going on. I do remember like one of my distinct memories was someone came off the sidelines and he pulled off his glove and you could see his bone. Like he had skinned his finger down and he was like, does it look bad? And I was like, let's go like take you to the athletic trainer. And they buddy taped his fingers together, put his glove back on, and we're like, get out there. And I remember, and they didn't tell him, like he didn't look at it. So I just remember, but then now when I think about it, I mean, if you look at obviously college maybe is not elite, but more elite athletes, they're going to do that. They're going to hurt themselves to compete. It's not the same as the people that are in your gym but yeah, probably when I think about what I knew they were doing from a strength and conditioning perspective, it probably wasn't where it should be at all.
Yeah. I mean, I made a joke about this on Twitter yesterday, where the strength and conditioning coach for the Pelicans left for the New Orleans Pelicans basketball team. And I said, hey, I'm officially putting in my name to be the strength and conditioning coach. And I promise you will never see an NBA basketball player like strict pressing away from their body ever again.
It's just like very confusing, some of the exercises they choose to do with athletes, because it just doesn't translate at all.
And then put them in harm's way a little bit too, like some
for sure
silly things. Unreal. So what, like, let's back it up to here. What do you think? What do you think when I came to you?
What did I think? That you were quite the character, for sure.
Well, let's start here. Okay. I've told the story. I told the story last week in the podcast, but I had been CrossFitting for about 10 years when I came to you. Okay. Mm-hmm. I had a torn labrum, bursitis, AC joint something. Maybe that was the bursitis, bicep tendonitis, and then like something else that I can't even remember. Mediohumeral something, right?
You had shoulder pain. Yeah.
shoulder pain. But it had gotten to the point where like I was ready for surgery. Mm-hmm. And I just so happened to get a text message from a friend, Drew Gerton, CrossFit Pendulum or Pendulum Fitness now. Yeah. And he said, hey man, how are you doing today? And I was just like, blah, everything.
I'm sure he was not ready for that.
He was not. He's like, dude, you need to go check out Active Life. And I'm like, oh yeah, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, and he goes, no, check them out. And I was like, okay. So I do the sales call with whoever. And honestly, I was like, okay, $300 a month is cheaper than my deductible for surgery that has a 30% failure, chance of failure. So why not?
That's a very rational way of looking at it. Not many people see it that way.
Right. And then like I did have thoughts of like, okay, so basically you're just going to write workouts for me and that's going to make me better.
Okay.
And that's what happened.
So I think you strike me as like a very, I hate to say it, but like typical CrossFitter, which is like,
really,
which is frustrating because I don't think I love CrossFit. I don't think CrossFit is inherently bad at all. I think it's often poorly programmed and poorly coached. I think people become, as I did, extremely obsessed with it extremely quickly and skip a lot of steps if they don't have coaches that are forcing those steps. I mean, you owned a gym, so you were obviously very all in on CrossFit, or do own a gym, still do. I remember you said, you were like, I don't like need to do muscle ups, but I feel like if I'm fit enough and I don't do them and they appear in a competition, I'll be able to do them. And I was like, we're going to change that thought process. I was like, you're not never going to do muscle ups and then just go do them in a competition. And you're like, I'll be fine.
All the same stuff I tell all of my members all the time.
That's why coaches need coaches, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But yeah, I think that it seemed like you had injured your shoulder a long time ago and then just gotten away with doing a lot of things by being strong enough or fit enough, but it eventually came crashing down.
Yeah.
Which is what happens with a lot of CrossFitters. I think people who are really into CrossFit enjoy some variation of suffering and think they can push through, but there's a big difference between workout suffering and pain suffering, and they need to maybe understand that.
How long do you think it takes for someone to understand the difference? Like, how in touch with your body do you actually have to be?
I want to say it depends on like where and how you started. Like, I was taught to snatch on the fly in middle of class. Like, I still struggle with snatching, but I didn't know better at that point. So it took me probably longer than it should have to like care about the way I move and the type of programming I'm doing.
And this is despite the fact that you're a physical therapist, right?
Yeah, but I wasn't then. Okay, I mean, okay. I am now. I was a little student. But I remember there was a time when I was actually in PT school, we go on rotations for like 3 months at a time. And I went on a rotation to Nashville and I left the gym I was at. And I got a strength coach I knew to program. I was like, I'm going to get stronger during these 3 months. I'm going to just do class at this gym a couple times and do like weightlifting. And all of a sudden I like didn't hurt all the time. And my knee, and I was like, wow, I like can do a ton of pull-ups because my shoulders are not hurting every time I do pull-ups. I'm like performing way better. And I went back to my gym and I told him like, I don't think I can handle the volume you're programming every day. And he was like, well, then maybe this isn't the gym for you. Ah. And that was kind of like the downfall of that situation.
Yeah. So like to me, there's been an evolution of CrossFit. And there are gyms that are on the forefront. Like I like to consider we are always on the forefront of what's happening in the world. Yeah. And then there are gyms that are stuck in, 2008. Right. Sure. And these are the gyms that are doing hero WODs all the time and named WODs, and there's no rhyme or reason to their programming. And the problem is you have people that get a taste of that, and then they think that's what CrossFit is supposed to be. So I talk all the time about CrossFit being the base or our methodology, but it's not something we're going to practice all the time. Like you shouldn't be practicing CrossFit. You do CrossFit to prepare and get stronger, but practicing for CrossFit is a completely different thing.
Yeah, I think, and then we can go into like what even is CrossFit, because basically every kind of exercise is CrossFit. I think it's just fitness, but I think like, yeah, like you said, back in, I don't know, 2005, 2008, even when I started CrossFit, which was later than that, it was like you just pulled, they had the hopper. You pulled some movements out, you did whatever. But now we know like yeah, that's going to get the average person fit pretty quickly, but it's not sustainable for a long time. It's been around long enough to see, like, if you just keep doing random things in which you're squatting 5 to 6 times a week, like you're not going to be able to sustain that. You're going to start hurting. You're not going to enjoy it. Your body's not going to keep seeing the gains that anyone's going to see just by moving more at the beginning. I think now there's so many like ComTrain, Proven, Misfits, so many hand plane companies that do this, that hopefully we're getting to a place where we're like elevating the kind of program we're doing, being smarter about things. Not always, but I think it's like a good thing and a bad thing that CrossFit gyms can operate really independently, because then you have really amazing gyms and really awful gyms.
Yeah. And I mean, we're talking about like the different, like what is CrossFit? And when I kind of started telling people like, we're going to be moving to or transitioning the gym to this active life model. And basically what I mean by that is training with intention and purpose. Right? Like not everything is a competition and B, just haphazardly put together. And not that we weren't haphazardly putting stuff together before. Like I always spent a ton of time on our programming, but now it's like, okay, how is it in relation to these people's like anatomy or their mobility, their flexibility, or their strength balance? What are we doing to improve those things? How is this person going to feel? And then like, their load versus capacity, those things as well.
100%. Yeah, group class is so phenomenal in that there's like this community, you're doing this thing together, there's a social aspect to it, and I think that's super healthy. But a lot of group class falls short in that there's no individualizing for people's needs. Like not everyone can squat below parallel. Not everyone can be doing.
Or should they, right?
Yeah, based on where they're at in their journey, how their body moves, what they're recovering from. And there's ways, as you know, like through Active Life, to make a group class more individualized. It's obviously never going to be where one-on-one training is. It's not possible. That's why I think ideally people are doing a little bit of both if I had the ideal world. But I have personalized programming. I absolutely love it. I think when I left doing group class, I was like, I'm going to hate working out by myself. And I've just seen how much I feel better, how much my fitness has improved with something tailored to me. And then every once in a while, I'll do group class because it's fun to throw down with my friends. Yeah. But when I go to do, I guess what we're saying is quote unquote CrossFit, I feel really good. I feel like I can give my whole effort. I can max out on things. I can string together a lot of gymnastics because my body's in a really good place because I'm not trying to do that 6 days a week.
Right. Yeah. And I think it's definitely where you are, and I keep talking about capacity, but where you are for your week. Like if you kill it, for example, your programming you had for me Monday following Murph, right? Like I had done upper body because we work on my upper body more than my lower body because of my shoulder. So I had upper body Monday, Wednesday. I rested on Thursday. Friday was like kind of a mobility movement prep for Murph on Saturday. Did Murph on Saturday, took off on Sunday. And then Monday I said, hey, I feel good enough for upper body. Throw my programming at me. And so you did. And you had these Turkish get-ups in the middle of this other stuff. And I was just like, I am sorry. I am not prepared for this today. Like I do not.
But that's really good self-awareness.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, I mean, I want people to be able to, I guess, be aware of their situations and know
what
that.
What do you think got you to that point? Because I think when I met you, you definitely didn't have that much awareness. You would do it anyways kind of thing.
Yeah, I wasn't do it anyways. But I mean, I had realized like, okay, I can see results. And one of the biggest things that I learned from you and Active Life, and I've been saying this, is that more is not better. It's just more.
Better is better.
Better is better. And I can get better results by actually doing less with more intention.
Oh, my heart.
Now, I know I still push the envelope in you.
I'm like, bro, I said 10 pounds. You did 20. Stop.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so like, I feel like I push the weight when I know I can and back off when I know I need to, and then there are some times where it's like, hey, Maysa told me to do 18 pounds on this. I'm doing 18 pounds, period.
I think it takes time to get to that point. I think a lot of times if you've come from a not great coaching situation, it takes pushing that too far and feeling the consequences of that and then pulling back in. It took me a while. I think it takes me a while with clients to convince them that more isn't better, because in CrossFit there's 1,000 skills and you constantly think, as a CrossFit mentality, it's more is better. Volume is king. We see the games, we see what games athletes are doing, and we don't understand that our lives are so drastically different than theirs, that
they're professional athletes.
That's their job, is to work out and recover.
Right.
They're eating so specific to that. They're doing recovery things, they're sleep, nothing else in their life matters. And they are the 0.01% of population that are genetic freaks, can recover faster, can withstand that volume. Most people can't, and that's really okay. I think that it takes time for people to, especially I see it a lot with female CrossFitters, to understand if you do less, you can feel better, perform better, and look better too.
Yes.
But people are so afraid. If I keep eating and I'm not working out as 5 times, whatever, how many Metcons, I'm not going to continue to look like this. And I'm like, CrossFit is, you're a nutritionist, but CrossFit's very inflammatory to your system. If your goals are just aesthetics, CrossFit's probably not the best way to get there. You can have a combination of it, but doing Metcons 5 or 6 days a week is going to put your body in an inflammatory state.
Hallelujah. Yeah. So what we try to call recovery days are build days, right? Because that gives your chance, your muscles to chill out, to let that inflammation go out. And then you are actually building muscle during those times. If you work out, if you're doing Metcon 6 days in a row, you're just going to stay inflamed. You're going to look puffy. You're never going to lean out.
People don't understand that. That's a very hard concept.
And it's a cycle. People are like, oh, well, I need to do more because I look this way. And they keep chasing something that they will never get there. It's the number one thing we say with our stacked coaching is, please divorce nutrition from fitness. They complement each other, but they don't go hand in hand in terms of nutrition is for weight loss, fitness is for wellness. So and the other thing we talk about is, for every pound of fat you lose through fitness, you have to maintain through fitness.
I like that.
So as soon as you realize that, it's huge, but it's funny. So I had some people that were concerned that we started this because the programming started to look different over the past couple of weeks. I already started implementing some of these things into our group classes, and it became more weightlifting centric, right? And then the Metcons went from maybe 5 intense Metcons a week to 2, a couple endurance workouts, and more flowy stuff, right? Accessory flow stuff. Your heart rate's elevated, but we're not killing it. We want to concentrate on this building portion. And I tell people, I said this in a Facebook post to our group, I'll say it again. The number one thing when it comes to fat burn is muscle gain, followed by energy expenditure. Those two things go hand in hand. And then you have this giant gap, and cardio is somewhere at the bottom that probably does nothing for it anyway.
It's so true. But I think that's something that you can say till you're blue in the face, until someone's experienced that and can trust the process enough, and then realize wow, my body looks like this and I'm not doing all of those crazy workouts all the time. Then they start to believe it. But it's hard to convince someone of that. I just had, and even not for aesthetics, for performance too. If you do all those accessory, if you want to call them, whatever you want to call it, work, your performance is going to be better.
Well, let's talk about me, right? So we just did Murph. Okay. And yes, I did it without a vest. It's the first time I've done it without a vest in like a decade.
Look at that time.
Yeah, but I did it in 37 minutes. Okay. And
elite level time.
And I felt like I didn't try. Right. And so here's no, I really do feel like I didn't try. So here's the funny thing about it is, like, during the mile runs, me and Shane, who was running with me, like, we had conversations the entire time. And then we got back into the gym and I kind of moseyed from thing to thing. But it was funny because I decided in the moment to do butterfly pull-ups. It's all good, Maysa. Trust me. But I hadn't done those in over a year. I had just been doing our strength stuff. We had been integrating gymnastics kipping into our programming recently, but it's been like 3 sets of 5, right?
Yeah.
Like, not a lot. So
you did 100 butterfly pull-ups.
I did 100 butterfly pull-ups and I didn't rip.
And pain?
I was good just from my lats. Just pulling with my lats.
Soreness. I feel like which
soreness.
is to be expected because you haven't done butterfly pull-ups at all.
Right, but no pain. I didn't feel wrecked. You know, I felt great. I actually felt like an hour later we were talking. I was like, I feel like I could go do this again. Which
I'm glad you didn't.
Which is how you should feel, right?
Yeah, I always say that. I was like, you should most of the time feel like when you leave the gym, you could do more. Maybe not on Murph Day, but that's okay. I'm glad you felt that way.
Right.
But yeah, we hammer single arm stability, overhead stability, pushing, pulling, high pulls, single arm stuff, like all the stuff that if you are going to do butterfly movements and muscle ups, like, you have to take care of your joints. You have to be addressing, like, I mean, CrossFitters hate to do isolation work, which is the dumbest thing ever, because everything you do in CrossFit is like massive movements and like synergies of muscles. So you got to take care of your tendons, joints, muscle health by doing isolated, more accessory work things.
Yeah. So, all right. So let's back it up. Okay. How do you decide to program someone like me with my goals in mind?
So I think what's interesting with someone like you, or I guess CrossFitters who have the goal of eventually, getting back to CrossFit type workouts or being able to do Metcons, is what happens a lot in traditional therapy is they'll get you out of acute shoulder pain, even build maybe some shoulder stability. And then there's this large gap between I'm not hurting all the time and I want to do muscle ups. And then people just go and they train the exact same way they trained before until the cycle happens on repeat.
Yep.
Which isn't true for all clinicians, but that's what happens a lot. Because there's no transition phase. Versus if I'm programming every day for you, slowly reintroducing movements in a healthy volume with appropriate supplemental work to your gymnastics, you start to learn how to train correctly and how to, like you said, know when's too much, when's too little, to have that self-awareness. And then, I always say, I don't want to get you back to where you were, because that's what got you to this injury in the first place. We want to teach you a new way of being able to do the things you want to do without experiencing the symptoms you experienced. And you're not going to get that from getting out of acute shoulder pain and then training the exact same way. So it's so many other things. I mean, obviously it's the way you train, it's your programming, which is really hard for CrossFitters a lot, because a lot of people are married to their programming. And then it's all the other things, like how are you eating? How are you sleeping? How are you managing stress? Are you dealing with everything in life by driving yourself into the ground in the gym? And that's why you're in this situation. Some of those breakthroughs are so much more than you're working out too much, Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like for most people out there, if you haven't experienced what I have experienced in my CrossFit career, let's say, or life, my CrossFit life, you will eventually, unless you address these things now.
Yeah.
But that's the same thing for anyone, in terms of if you're an habitual long distance runner, or any fitness type or sports specific thing, you do it hard enough for long enough without properly taking care of your body, then injuries occur.
For sure. And like, even if you look at, I mean, people like to hate on CrossFit and how bad it is. Look at the evolution of gymnastics. Like, people didn't used to strength train doing gymnastics, and look at what they're doing, like at Olympic levels. And now you see a lot of younger gymnastic gyms doing like shoulder stability work and squats and stuff like that. I mean, CrossFit came out of like a garage and people were just throwing together workouts. Like, things have changed. I think it's going to take time to get, I mean, like, still, like, NC State football was probably not doing strength training they should be doing. Like, there are great CrossFit gyms that are incorporating overhead stability, single leg stuff. I mean, CrossFit has literally no single side movements, very little single arm, a little single arm. I wouldn't count pistols as our single leg strength. And then no side to side movements. So there's massive gaps in like stability, and you need to be working on those things if you want to have longevity. And most people doing CrossFit want to be able to do it for the rest of their lives. So I think we're evolving to get there.
So it's funny, in my workout, was it Monday or yesterday? No, it was Monday. It was Monday. It was Tuesday. Sorry. Tuesday, you had me do overhead split squats.
Mm-hmm.
And I did it with a bar, and then I put 5s on there, and then I put 10s, building. Mm-hmm. And I just had this realization where 6 months ago, I thought I was never going to put a barbell over my head in that type of fashion ever again. Like, I thought, oh, I'm never going to do overhead squats again. I literally said to people, I'm not going to snatch ever again. Now I can see, like, I could probably do whatever I want, and within reason in the future, because of where I am and how I've been training.
Not like the best thing ever. This is why I love my job.
Yeah, no, I mean, it like, I had this realization just like, oh my God, like, everything, took things off the table for me, and I said them out loud. I said them to other people, like, there's no reason I should be doing this. And now it's kind of like, well, why shouldn't I be? Mm-hmm. But it just requires that focus. Yeah.
Yeah. And understanding like what it takes to be able to do those things. I should not have learned to snatch on the fly in a class, and that's why it has caused me a lot of issues. Had I been taught in foundations, like we were just talking about, incorporating foundations, and assessed for the appropriate mobility, which I most definitely did not have at that time, I probably wouldn't. I mean, I had a lot of shoulder issues previously, but then it would be easy for me to be like, well, snatching's just not for me. Like, I just shouldn't snatch. And that's what happens with even the most basic movements. Like, people are like, well, I just shouldn't squat. I just had a client who came to me and said he has some like disc issues in his low back, and his doctor was like, you can keep going to the gym, you just can't squat or deadlift. And I was like, that's
ridiculous.
But people get that idea, like, maybe it's just not for me because they haven't trained correctly, haven't had good coaching, they just tried to deadlift and did it poorly. It didn't feel good. But I mean, like, we are doing, maybe not snatching, but we're doing things like squatting and deadlifting and pressing.
Yeah. And I mean,
every day when we get up and off the toilet, when we go up and down stairs. Like, yeah.
And it just like my thinking right there, how I just described, and like the evolution of my thinking in terms of what I was physically capable of doing. It comes with, when we talked about the evolution of CrossFit to this point, and it's just the evolution of our gym. Like, back when we first started, there was no on-ramp. And then we put like a 4-class on-ramp in, because we decided there needed to be something to get people ready to get into class, and that's kind of when I bypassed group on-ramp, because we had done that for a little bit as well. And that does not work. Group on-ramp does not work. Okay. For all you gyms listening out there, don't do that. All right. And then, I mean, we would even like skirt the foundation some so that people could get immediately to class if there was a financial issue or stuff like that. And the reality is that those people, we did a disservice to all those people entering our gym without giving them the proper amount of one-on-one training before they enter group class. So, I mean, we started this 2 weeks ago, like minimum 9 sessions to enter our gym. So like I'm asking people to give us, $702 upfront at minimum. Some people, the entry is, $1,300 because it's 15 sessions or something like that. But the reality is these people that now go through this are going to be better equipped to handle our group class. Their trajectory upward is going to be faster. And from a gym standpoint, like we're going to retain those members much better because they're going to have a better experience.
100%. And like, what is $700 up front if they tear their labrum, because they're doing things they shouldn't or hurt themselves? Like that's nothing in the grand scheme of things financially. They're saving so much money by learning how to move correctly, learning where their deficits are, what they need to be scaling and modifying and how to fix those things. I 100% agree with that. I wish I would have done on-ramp, but you don't know what you don't know.
Well, yeah, you don't know what you don't know. And all you can do is change as new information is brought to you. And that's like the one thing I promise to my members is as new and better information comes to me, we will evolve as a gym.
I love that.
Yeah, thank you. So those of you listening, we do have custom programming for all of our members now, which would be individual design. And we also do personal training in the setting that Maysa is describing. Maysa, do you have any advice for your typical CrossFitter out there?
Probably do less is my number one advice. And then also I think, be smart about your programming, assess it. I think a lot of times people are very quick to say, because someone famous is doing it or because someone I look up to is doing it, it must be good for me. And just because it's good for someone else does not mean it's good for you. Think about it. Like, I also think one of the biggest things CrossFitters forget is that front squats, back squats, squat cleans, snatches, thrusters are all squats. And so like people will say like, well, I didn't squat 5 days this week. And then you look at their programming and you're like, but you did, because you did thrusters and then pistols and then squat cleans and then box jump overs and then wall balls. Like, so I think people love it so much, which is such a great thing. Like finding a fitness that you're that into is like, there's very few other corporations, companies, maybe cycling that get people to love fitness that much. So you can't knock it for that. But I think just being slower and smarter. Everyone wants everything so quickly. Like they want to be able to do everything now. Like I want a muscle up, I want 10 muscle ups, I want all these things. Just assessing where you're at and what you're doing. And selfishly, I think hiring a one-on-one coach is the best thing you can do. I have one. I have one. Heard she's pretty good.
She is pretty good. And she's snarky too, so I like it.
I think that I love group class. I think that shouldn't be your only avenue of fitness. You need, and if nothing else, like be assessed, figure out what you need to do to get the most out of group class. So you're not going in blindly, having no idea how to modify things, having no idea, it's so easy. If you're a coach in group class and someone's squatting and they're not going below parallel, you're just going to be like, go a little deeper. Right. So you have no idea if that's appropriate for them. And there's ways to incorporate that into group class. You're never going to get as good of assessment in group as you can on one-on-one. So I always say, invest in the one-on-one coach. See where you're at, see what you need to work on. And that can be supplementary to group, but it's just going to overall benefit you.
I love it. And we're actually coming up here at the end of the month. We're going to start running workshop assessments for all of our members over the course of multiple weekends, so that if you are already a member of RU, that you will get the proper assessment to know exactly what you need to do in group class. So I'm excited to bring that to everyone. So Maysa, where can people find you on social media?
MaysaHannawi.dpt.
I love it. All right, Maysa, thank you for doing this. We really appreciate it. Take care.
Thanks for having me.